Good morning. Today is Wednesday, the 11th day of Teves, and today we're going to begin with chapter 10 in the Tanya. Let's begin first by tzedakah, giving tzedakah, gedela tzedakah, shemekareves sageula. So, chapter 10 describes what is a tzaddik, a righteous one, what is really a tzaddik, and it says there is generally, the Alter Rebbe explains, there are generally two levels of a tzaddik. There is the complete tzaddik and the incomplete tzaddik. Today we're going to focus on what is the incomplete tzaddik. So to understand, let's take a step back. The Alter Rebbe began the first chapter. He explains that there is the different types of people. There is the tzaddik, the beinoni, and the rasha, the righteous one, the intermediate one, and the wicked one. And then he went to explain what does it mean. To understand the Alter Rebbe, we discussed in the last chapter, chapter 9, that we have the battle of the two souls, the godly soul and the animal soul in each one of us. And each one of them, the souls, they want to conquer the entire body. Meaning that the intellect, the emotions, the thoughts, the speech, the action, everything, the godly soul wants that this should be devoted and dedicated only for godly things. The animal soul is basically the egoistic soul that we feel we want what we like, what we see. And the animal soul wants the opposite, that everything should be, that he should be in control of everything, thought, speech, action, even the emotions and everything. Now, Alter Rebbe explains now that tzaddik is the one that overcame the animal soul, overcame the struggles with the materialistic desires, and he does not have them anymore because he's so devoted. His godly soul became so powerful and overpowered the animal soul, and he wants to do only what Hashem wants. Does not even have a desire. That's how much it went. It does not even have a desire to do anything which is against Hashem. That is the tzaddik. The beinoni we're going to discuss in chapter 12. The beinoni is a person who is in a constant struggle, but meaning that he does have desires to do bad, to do whatever feels good, but when it comes to action or speech or thought, he's in full control. He does the right thing. And the rasha, the wicked person, is the one who does not have the control. And then again, there is many, many different levels in the rasha. Some people are almost like a beinoni. They have a little bit of struggle left. And the same thing is with tzaddik. There's many different levels in the tzaddik also. So now we begin to explain what is the tzaddik, particularly what is the incomplete tzaddik. So we said a tzaddik is a person who does not have any desires to do bad. So what's the difference between him and between the different levels of a tzaddik, a complete tzaddik, an incomplete tzaddik? The Alter Rebbe is going to explain that a incomplete tzaddik is one who subjugated his evil inclination to the point that he does not want to do anything which is against God, but he didn't really completely eliminate it. There is still a trace of the bad in him, and the fact that he doesn't have the desires to do something wrong is not because it's gone, but because it's nullified. It's completely nullified. It's so small, so that the ego within him is so small that it doesn't express itself in real desires. And the question is, why are we learning about the tzaddik? Why is the Alter Rebbe telling us about the tzaddik? After all, a tzaddik, as we're going to explain, is a person his love is only to Hashem. Anything in this world, any materialistic things, does not talk to him. But the vast majority of us, a piece of steak still talks to us. A nice car, or a good salary, or material pleasures, they still talk to us. We want them. So why do we learn about it? What is it? Do we have any connection with this? And the answer is yes. We do have a little bit of a tzaddik in us, and that comes that Hashem placed in us because, after all, we have a neshama, a godly soul. It says about Yosef at tzaddik. We read in this week's Torah portion. Yosef, he was the tzaddik. He had the neshama. He was called a tzaddik elyon, higher tzaddik. His soul, he looked at the world like with a perspective, from a godly perspective. He saw the godliness in everything. And that is why he was able to be the second in command in Egypt. He was the leader of Egypt, and it didn't affect him spiritually. He remained holy, a tzaddik, because none of the material things spoke to him. He was a very, very spiritual person. In everything in this world, he looked at with a perspective of godliness. Not only that, but he also planted, as it says in Chassidus, he planted the love to Hashem in the rest of us. He was considered the shepherd of the Jewish people. That's why it says, when he instructed to plant his silver cup in the bag of Binyamin, his brother, Kabbalistically, it represents a silver. It's called kesef in Hebrew, which means yearning, a love to Hashem. He said, plant my silver cup in the bag of Binyamin. In those people who are, Binyamin was called tzaddik tachton, the lower tzaddik, those who have the struggles. So he gave us and this is the same thing he did to Am Yisrael, to all of us. He planted in us a little bit of the tzaddik. So therefore, when we know that we have a little tzaddik in us, it helps us to overcome the little struggles that we have, or the big struggles that we have. So let's begin in Tanya, chapter 10, where the Alter Rebbe explains this. Says the Alter Rebbe, when a person causes his divine soul to prevail over the animal soul, and when he wages war against the animal soul to the extent that he banishes and eradicates its evil from its abode within him, namely the left part of the heart. As we said in last chapter, the left part of the heart is the place where the oxygenated blood is, and this represents the passion that the person has, the physical life. And that is where the evil, the selfish, the egoistic desires come from. So when he eliminates the evil of it, meaning the selfishness of it, as it is written, and you shall eradicate the evil from your midst. Meaning the Torah instructs us that we have to eradicate not only when our actions, what we do, not only what we do, what we think, what we speak, but we have to eradicate even the ra mikirbecha, the evil that within us, meaning the desires to do also. That should also be completely transformed. So when a person works and eliminates this evil from within him, however, it does so not completely. Ve'ein hara nepach letoiv mamash. As the one who achieves this goal, but finds that the evil has nevertheless not actually been converted into good. in which case his entire capacity for desire would not be directed only towards good and holiness. Since with him, this is not the case, therefore it says, Nikro tzadik she'ein gamo. He is called an incomplete tzaddik. He's a tzaddik because he feels only good, only to do good, but it's not completely eliminated. It doesn't, the evil was not completely gone. So that's why he's not a complete tzaddik. He's called not a complete tzaddik. There is a complete tzaddik and there's a non-complete tzaddik. A complete tzaddik is one who has full love to Hashem. We explained yesterday, there's the two types of love. There is the love that is called Ava Kerish Feyesh, fiery love, and there is the love that is called Ava Betanugim, love in delight. The fiery love is the love that you have when you feel you miss something. You want to get it. You're so much in love and you want to achieve it, and you feel that you're still distant from it, and you want to get it. The tzaddik gomer, that is the tzaddik sheinagam. The incomplete tzaddik has that kind of love. The tzaddik gomer has ava betanogim, love and delight, meaning the love that he achieved, the connection, the pleasure, a delight in Hashem. But a person that is not completely eliminated, the evil, is called a tzaddik sheinagam. V'tzaddik v'raloi, and he's called a tzaddik who knows evil. What does it mean? Raloi, there is still evil within him. Not that it's noticeable evil, but it's still a remnant of evil, a trace of evil in him. Meaning that some vestige of evil still lingers within him in the left part of his heart. However, that little evil, he doesn't feel it. Why? Because it's nullified. Just like the law says, when you have a pot of chicken soup and a drop of milk falls in by mistake, if the drop is nullified in the taste, you don't feel the taste, it's kosher, you can eat that chicken soup. Is it mixed milk and chicken? Yes, but it's nullified. And you don't feel it, you don't taste it. It doesn't have the power. So the evil within the tzaddik verala is so small that it's nullified. Except that it finds no expression at all, not even in evil desires. Why? Because the evil, by reason of its minuteness, is subjugated and nullified by the good and cannot therefore be sensed. So the tzaddik, the incomplete tzaddik, he doesn't, when it comes to actual feeling, he doesn't feel the evil. He doesn't feel a desire to go do bad things. Velochein, says, therefore, he, the tzaddik, the incomplete tzaddik, he may imagine that he has driven it out and it is quite disappeared. But the truth is that the incomplete tzaddik, the evil still, the trace of the evil still lingers in him. Aval be'emes, how do we know that? Says the Alter Rebbe, Aval be'emes ilu chola v'olech legamre, kol harashaboy o yonepach l'toiv mamish. In truth, however, had all the evil in him departed and disappeared, it would have been converted into actual good. Because this is what a tzaddik, a complete tzaddik is. A complete tzaddik is someone who completely transformed, not only eliminated the evil, but transformed the evil into good. That is complete elimination, is that it transforms. The explanation of the matter is as follows. So, in other words, how does the tzaddik, how does he know? How do you gauge whether he eliminated the good, whether he's a complete tzaddik or not? So the Alter Rebbe explains, Kini tzaddik gomer, but to understand this, he will explain a little bit of what is a complete tzaddik. And he's going to say that a complete tzaddik completely eliminated it, and therefore the measuring, the gauge is how much does he despise the evil. If you really love something, you despise anything that negates it. And the complete tzaddik despises anything, any pleasures, physical pleasures, he despises. It's hard for us to understand. But a person who is in the level of a tzaddik, a complete tzaddik, does not have a desire to any material things. Why? Because he knows that the selfish desires, the selfish pleasures, comes from the klipa, comes from the place where it conceals God. That is selfishness. And being that a tzaddik, the complete tzaddik, is really completely nullified to God. So anything which can contradict that connection, he despises completely. So it was a group of students that once came into the Rebbe. They asked him, how does one become a Rebbe? And the Rebbe said, step number one, in order to become a Rebbe, is to nullify all the physical pleasures. That you should have no desire, no draw to material things. I said there was once a chassid that had an argument with someone who told him, those Rebbes, they all they want is money and honor and pleasures. They want nice cars, nice houses, whatever. So the chassid told him a story of the cow. There was this farmer that had a cow, and a Jewish farmer, and every Sunday the cow had a special treat. Why? Because Sunday morning the balabusta went and washed the dishes with all of the leftover cholent and everything, and she took the water of all of these leftovers, and she gave the water to the cow, and the cow enjoyed that special treat every Sunday. One Sunday, the balabusta forgot and she threw out the water. And the cow got on Sunday regular pot of water. Says this chassid that this cow started to think, what exactly happened? How come I didn't get my special treat today? And the cow was thinking and thinking until she came to a conclusion, I know what happened. I know this balabusta. She decided, why should I give the water to the cow? I want to drink it myself. I want to enjoy myself. So this is exactly the example what the chassid gave to this person. You do not understand, just like the cow thinks, does not understand what is pleasure of a human. You don't understand what is the pleasure of a chassid, of a tzaddik, of a rebbe. All these leftover cholent water does not talk to the tzaddik. What does the tzaddik want? The tzaddik wants Hashem. So, says the Alter Rebbe here, that what is the gauge? Where do you know that you are a complete tzaddik? You have to see how much you despise the materialistic pleasures. If you have a complete, if you despise it completely, you hate the materialistic pleasures, then you know your love to Hashem is complete. That's what Alter Rebbe is going to explain. Again, says the Alter Rebbe, "Ki netzadik omo shenepach oral shelo letoiv v'locheinik tzadik v'toiv a complete tzaddik in whom the evil has been converted into good, and who is consequently called a tzaddik who knows only good, who al yedei asoras abgodim atzoim legamre me'ara." He has attained this level by completely removing his filthy garment from evil, which means to despise all the materialistic things. This means he despises utterly the pleasures of this world, finding it repugnant to derive from them pleasure which other people derive. Namely, the pleasure of merely gratifying the physical appetite instead of using this pleasure towards the service of God. In other words, because the tzaddik also, it's not that he doesn't have ability to have pleasure, he has ability to have pleasures. And indeed, sometimes he does have pleasures from material things when it's used to serve Hashem. For example, on Shabbos. There is a mitzvah on Shabbos to enjoy food, to derive pleasure from food. So that the tzaddik does in a godly way. But this it's a very tricky thing. There's the son of the Alter Rebbe once said that when it comes to those type of mitzvahs that the Torah tells us to enjoy physical pleasures, those are mitzvahs that we don't have to go beyond and become extra careful about those mitzvahs. Why not? Because those mitzvahs, when you're talking about physical pleasures, it's very easily, you can confuse, you think, I'm gonna have this chulent for Hashem, to enjoy a Shabbos for Hashem, but in the meantime, who do you have in mind? You have in mind yourself, your own pleasures. To do it for Hashem takes thoughts, it takes devotion. You're doing it for Hashem. By a tzaddik, Hashem needs to instruct them to get some pleasure. So in order to do this, that is a tzaddik. A tzaddik despises and is repugnant of any material physical pleasures. And why is that? Like we said, because pleasures come, the physical pleasures come from the klipa, things that conceal godliness. The tzaddik does not want to be there. He despises such pleasures, for they are derived from and receive their spiritual sustenance from the klipa, the shells, and sitra achra, the other side, the very antithesis of holiness. The complete tzaddik utterly hates whatever is of the sitra achra. And why is that? Because he loves Hashem so much. He does not want to be separated for a second from Hashem. So he hates the evil. Now, he doesn't hate evil people. We have to be careful. We have to understand that very clearly. We have to make it very clear. He loves every person, every human being, every creature in the world. He loves the evilness in them. He hates the evilness in them. He loves them, but he hates the evil within them, and that's what he wants to eliminate. He does not want to have anything to do with evil things. Because of his great love, a profuse love of the light, and a superior degree of affection for God and his holiness, as mentioned above. Since the holiness and klipa are antithetical, his love of God therefore evokes a commensurate degree of hatred for the sitra achra. As it is written in Tehillim, King David says, Tachlis nesim, I hate them with a consuming hatred. Le'oivim hoyuli, they became enemies to me. And he says, King David says to God, search me, he says to God, and know my heart. Which means that by searching me and knowing how great is my love to you, my love of you born in my heart, you will know how great is my hatred towards your enemies. For as stated, love is the measure of hate. And that's what Alter Rebbe explains. This is how the tzaddik can measure and see if he's really a complete tzaddik or not. He has to see if he hates, despises the physical pleasures and the evil. If he despises it utterly, then you know you're a complete tzaddik. But if not, then you're not yet a complete tzaddik. And according to the abundance of love towards God, so is the extent of hatred towards the spiritual sitra achra. which nurtures the physical pleasures and the utter repugnance of the evil of physical pleasures. Because repugnance is as much the exact opposite of love as is hatred. So the incomplete tzaddik is he who does not hate the sitra achra, the spiritual klippus, with an absolute hatred. Therefore, he also doesn't find evil, physical desires, and pleasure absolutely repugnant. As long as his hatred is and abhorrence of evil are not absolute, perforce he must have retained some vestige of love and pleasure towards it. An example that I once heard is when you think about a disgusting piece of rotten bread. When you look at it, you're totally, utterly repugnant. You despise it. Can't look at it, you can't smell it, you're certainly not going to put it into your mouth. But is it really so? Is it really so much repugnant, completely, utterly? I would argue that it's not. Why? Imagine, it's hard to imagine. But people in the Holocaust, people that have starving under a famine, there's a hunger, you have nothing to eat, you didn't eat for days. You would see that piece of bread that you're disgusted with, and they would take this piece of bread and they would eat it like it's the best meal they had. So again, that is the levels when you're talking about the tzaddik, who is not a complete tzaddik. He despises it completely, utterly. But can you say that deep inside there's nothing, no trace of desire to it? It's hard to tell. But that's what he says. If it's not completely repugnant completely, then there is not complete tzaddik it. The filthy garments in which the animal soul had been clothed, meaning, as explained above, the evil inclination and the lusting after the worldly pleasures have obviously not been completely shed from it. Therefore, too, the evil of the animal soul has not actually been converted to good. Since it still has some hold on the filthy garment. Except that the evil is nullified in the good by reason of its minuteness and is accounted as nothing. You don't feel it. That is why, indeed, it's called the tzadik v'raloi. A tzaddik v'raloi means a tzaddik whose evil is subjugated and surrendered to him. And therefore, therefore, he says, his love of God is also not complete. Therefore, he is called an incomplete tzaddik. This is the end of today's shir, and tomorrow we're going to talk more about the complete tzaddik, and again, what this has to do with us, because deep inside we have a tiny little tzaddik helping us in our struggles, our daily struggles to do and to develop feelings towards the positive, towards Hashem, towards godliness. Have a wonderful day, everyone.